guys, it's Trina, and these are my reviews of the last 5 audiobooks that I have listened to this year. There are timestamps in the description in case there is one review that you want to just jump straight to of one of the books that you saw in the thumbnail. 3 of the audiobooks I will be talking about today were already in my March wrap-up, and then the last 2 will be in my April wrap-up, so don't forget to check out my monthly reading wrap-ups if you want to hear my thoughts on the writing, the characters, the story overall. But in this video I'm just going to be talking about the narration, whether or not I thought the voice actors did a good job, and if it fit the story and the characters. I've also been getting a few questions about tips for listening to audiobooks, and I may end up doing just a separate video on tips for listening to audiobooks if that's something that you guys are interested in, so let me know that. Or if you have any other questions about audiobooks or like specific things that you're wondering about my experience with them, leave those down in the comments of this video and I can start to work on and see if a Q&A type of video is something that you guys are interested in. So into my reviews. City of Saints and Thieves is by Natalie C. Anderson, and this audiobook was narrated by Pascale Armand. This is a mystery set in Kenya, and it follows a main character who fled Congo with her mother years ago as refugees. 5 years ago her mother was killed, and our main character has always thought she has known what happened and who did it. The main character is homeless and she works with a street gang, and she has an incredible reputation as being the city's best thief. As she and her group are pulling off a heist in this really wealthy house, she uncovers some more information about her mother, and she sets out on a quest to find out what really happened to her mom. This was a 2017 debut novel, and I've done an individual non-spoiler video review of this book if you want to hear my thoughts on the story and how I liked it and everything. So this narration was done by Pascale Armand, who is a stage and TV actress, and you can tell that she does have an acting background in her voice acting in this story. At least I thought I could tell, because I did really feel like she brought the characters to life. She reads this book in an accent which I believe was a Swahili accent, which fit the region that this book was set in, and I do feel like reading it in that accent was very, very fitting of the story and the characters. It made everything feel very genuine. I gave the book a 3-star rating, but I would probably give the narration by itself a 4-star rating because I did feel like it was pretty well done. The next audiobook that I have finished recently was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and this audio was read by Stephen Crossley. This is an adult fantasy novel following a character who is able to travel through different dimensions. He has a habit of smuggling artifacts from world to world, which is very illegal, it's very forbidden, and he finds himself in possession of a very dark artifact that's very dangerous, and before he can return it, he actually gets pickpocketed by our second main character, Lila Bard, and they end up working together to figure out what to do with this object. This was a reread for me. I had previously read the print version of this, but I am glad that I read the print version originally because I wasn't a huge fan of this narration. I think that Stephen Crossley's basic narration, when he's just describing the events that are happening, was very enjoyable. It was fine, but I hated the voices that he had for these characters. I especially hated the way that he voiced Lila Bard. I kind of liked his voice for Holland. I didn't really feel like Cal fit what my headcanon was, but Lila's accent and voice was just, it was completely unfitting. She had a kind of childish voice, and that's not Lila Bard at all. That's not how I imagine Lila Bard, and just, he had zero emotion in Lila's character. And there was a tone and a quality to the way that he read these characters and some of the narration that felt very middle grade, which I didn't feel was fitting for this series because it's an adult fantasy series. My narration rating for this one would probably be like 2 stars or 2.5. It just didn't work for me. I didn't feel like it fit in tone for the genre or the story being told, and I didn't feel like the characters' voicing really suited them. The third audiobook that I have recently finished was American Street by E.B. Zoboi. This audio was narrated by Robin Miles. This is the story of a young girl who is Haitian, and she and her mother are traveling from Haiti to the United States to visit family, but her mother is detained at the airport by U.S. immigration, and our main character has to go live with her aunt and her cousins by herself, and when she gets to America, things are just not how she assumed that they would be. The book is narrated from the first-person point of view of the main character, Fabiola, who is Haitian, and the narrator reads and narrates the entire book in a Haitian Creole accent, but she switches between a Haitian accent and an American accent for the American characters flawlessly. I think that she really did a good job at switching between the voices, and she really captured the feeling and the emotions and the personality of the main character. So I really enjoyed the narration in this story. I would probably give it like a 4.5 or even a 5-star rating on narration alone. Unfortunately, I just didn't enjoy this book, and I have done a full spoiler-free individual review for American Street, and I also talked about it briefly in my March wrap-up if you want to hear more of my thoughts on the book itself. I also finished The Thousandth Floor by Katharine McGee. This is a YA futuristic story that follows 5 different characters' points of views, and it's set 100 years in the future where New York, instead of being a sprawling city, they have built one tower like on Central Park, and everybody in New York lives in this tower. There are 1,000 floors, and the higher up you live in this tower, the wealthier and the more popular that you are. This story is all about secrets, lies, drama, parties. It's a very Pretty Little Liars type of feeling. This audiobook was narrated by Phoebe Strole, and I don't have a ton of thoughts on the narration. I thought it was pretty average. There's more of a fault in the writing than in the narration itself of sometimes I couldn't tell all of these characters apart. I would say that I would give the narration of this audiobook probably like a 3-star rating. It was pretty moderate, pretty average. Nothing stood out to me as being fantastic, but nothing stood out to me as being horrible either. The last audiobook I have to review for you guys is The Princess Diarist, written by Carrie Fisher, and this audiobook was also narrated by Carrie Fisher herself, and parts of it were narrated by her daughter Billie Lourd. Carrie Fisher, of course, is the actress that played Princess Leia in the Star Wars films, and she recently passed away. This one is all talking about her time on the set of Star Wars. She wrote this book because she stumbled upon the diaries that she kept while she was filming the first Star Wars film, and so that kind of prompted her to reflect on that time in her life. Obviously, she gets a 5-star rating for narration because this is her story. She reads it the way that she meant to. It was extremely heart-wrenching and emotional to listen to this book because she did so recently pass away, and she very frequently in the book speculates about what people will think of her after she's dead, and it was just kind of difficult to listen to that. But I mean, her narration was of course wonderful and very genuine because she's reading her own story. If you like celebrity memoirs that are read by the author themselves, I think it's one that you should check out. Those are my thoughts on the narration of these last 5 audiobooks that I have listened to. So out of these 5, if I were going to recommend just one of them, tell you which one my favorite was, I would probably say The Princess Diarist, because that whole aspect of having the celebrity read their own story is always appealing, and I think that it would have more of a wide appeal. But besides that one, if you don't like nonfiction, then I think my favorite narration wise was American Street. Even though I did not enjoy that story and I thought that it had some very problematic elements, which if you want to know more about that, please check out my individual review because I go into detail about it, I did think that the narrator did a really good job. And so if you're wondering about this book and you want to know if you want to pick it up, I would recommend the audio format because that was what kept me engaged and kept me reading during that story. If you have any other questions for me about these audiobooks, please ask me that down below. If not, I'll see you with some more audiobooks soon. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the comments. Bye!